7 toxic behaviors you should never accept, not even from family.
There comes a point in life when staying quiet no longer feels peaceful. It feels heavy. It feels like something inside you is slowly shrinking. You start to notice that the more understanding you are, the more people take advantage. The more forgiving you become, the more they push their limits. And one day, you realize something important. Peace without boundaries is not peace at all. It is quiet self-betrayal. This is a difficult truth, especially when the people causing the pain are family. We grow up believing that blood excuses behavior, that loyalty means endurance, and that love requires sacrifice. But love was never meant to cost you your dignity. In this video, we are going to talk about 7 toxic behaviors you should never accept, not even from family. Not because you are cold or selfish, but because self-respect is not cruelty. It is survival. One of the most common toxic behaviors people tolerate for far too long is disrespect disguised as humor. It often starts subtly. A joke about your choices. A sarcastic comment about your dreams. A laugh at your expense during a family gathering. When you finally feel uncomfortable enough to speak up, you are told you are too sensitive, that it was just a joke, that you should learn to laugh. But here is the reality many people ignore. Humor that repeatedly humiliates is not harmless. It is a test. It tests how much you will tolerate. Every time you laugh it off to keep the peace, you are teaching people how to treat you. Over time, this kind of behavior chips away at your confidence. You begin to second-guess yourself. You start shrinking your ambitions so they do not provoke another joke. True respect never needs to be hidden behind laughter. And real closeness does not require you to accept being diminished to belong. Another deeply damaging behavior is emotional manipulation. This one is harder to spot because it often comes wrapped in concern, sacrifice, and guilt. These are the people who constantly remind you of everything they have done for you. They make their emotions your responsibility. If they are unhappy, you are the reason. If you set a boundary, you are ungrateful. If you choose yourself, you are selfish. Over time, you begin to feel responsible for managing their moods, their disappointments, their expectations. This is exhausting. And more importantly, it is not your job. Caring about someone does not mean surrendering control over your inner world. Emotional manipulation thrives on confusion. It wants you doubting your judgment, questioning your motives, and apologizing for things that are not wrong. Calm clarity is its greatest enemy. You do not need to explain yourself endlessly. You do not need to win arguments. Standing firm, without anger and without guilt, is often the most powerful response. Closely connected to manipulation is the presence of constant negativity. Some people carry chaos wherever they go. Every conversation becomes a complaint. Every situation is a problem. Every moment of peace feels interrupted by drama, criticism, or fear. After spending time with them, you feel drained instead of grounded. You may love them. You may feel sorry for them. But sympathy does not require self-sacrifice. Prolonged exposure to negativity shapes your mindset in ways you may not immediately notice. You become more anxious, more reactive, less hopeful. Over time, your mental environment begins to mirror theirs. You do not have to argue with negative people or try to change them. You also do not need to announce your departure. Sometimes the healthiest choice is quiet distance. Protecting your peace is not avoidance. It is wisdom earned through experience. Another toxic behavior that quietly erodes relationships is the refusal to take accountability. These are the people for whom everything is always someone else's fault. When things go wrong, they explain. When they hurt you, they justify. When you bring up a pattern, they deflect. You may forgive them again and again, hoping this time will be different. But patterns matter more than promises. Accountability is not about perfection. It is about responsibility. When someone consistently avoids it, they place the emotional burden on everyone around them. You begin carrying the weight of their mistakes, their moods, and their unresolved issues. Forgiveness is powerful, but forgiveness without change teaches people that access to you has no cost. At some point, wisdom asks a different question. Not whether someone is sorry, but whether their behavior actually changes. And if it does not, distance becomes a form of self-respect, not punishment. As life goes on, another painful reality becomes clear. Not everyone who smiles at you wants you to succeed. Envy and hidden competition are especially difficult to accept within families, where support is expected and comparison is often normalized. These are the people who appear encouraging but subtly diminish your progress. They celebrate quietly when you struggle and grow uncomfortable when you thrive. You sense it in the tone of their voice, in the backhanded compliments, in the way conversations shift when you talk about something meaningful to you. This is not about paranoia. It is about awareness. You do not need to confront envy. You do not need to expose it. The healthiest response is often to move forward without explanation. Keep your plans private. Let your growth speak quietly. Some people are unsettled not by your success, but by what it reminds them they avoided in their own lives. Throughout all of this, there is a deeper theme running underneath these behaviors. It is the slow erosion of boundaries. Boundaries are not walls meant to isolate you. They are guidelines that protect your time, your energy, and your sense of self. When someone repeatedly ignores your limits, pushes after you say no, or makes you feel guilty for protecting your space, that is not closeness. That is control. Many people feel the need to constantly justify their boundaries, hoping to be understood. But people who respect you do not require lengthy explanations. And people who are committed to crossing your lines will never be satisfied by them. Calm enforcement matters more than emotional defense. Walking away without resentment, without speeches, without revenge, is often the clearest signal that you value yourself. There is one more toxic behavior that often goes unnoticed, yet leaves lasting damage, and it connects all the others together. It is the habit of dismissing your emotions. Being told repeatedly that your feelings are exaggerated, inconvenient, or wrong teaches you to distrust yourself. Over time, you stop listening to your inner signals. You hesitate before speaking. You question whether your discomfort is valid. This is one of the most subtle ways people lose themselves. Emotional awareness is not weakness. It is information. When your feelings are constantly invalidated, your inner compass becomes unreliable. And without that compass, it becomes much harder to protect your well-being, your boundaries, and your peace. None of these behaviors disappear overnight. And recognizing them does not mean you immediately cut people out of your life. Growth is rarely dramatic. It is quiet. It shows up in smaller decisions. In choosing not to laugh at what hurts. In refusing to carry guilt that does not belong to you. In stepping back from conversations that drain you. In observing patterns instead of chasing apologies. Strength does not always announce itself. Often, it looks like calm distance. Like silence without bitterness. Like walking away without needing to explain why. And as we move forward, there is one final truth that ties everything together. Real peace is not found in isolation. It is found in discipline. The discipline to protect your inner world. The discipline to respect yourself even when others do not. And the discipline to stop tolerating what no longer deserves a place in your life. When people hear the phrase toxic behavior, they often imagine shouting, insults, or obvious cruelty. But in real life, the most damaging patterns are rarely loud. They are quiet. They repeat slowly. They hide inside familiarity. They survive because we excuse them. Because we tell ourselves this is just how they are. Because we convince ourselves that enduring discomfort is the same as being loving. But endurance without awareness becomes self-abandonment. And over time, it teaches others that your peace is negotiable. This is why learning to recognize what you will no longer accept changes everything. Not all at once. Not dramatically. But gradually, in a way that reshapes how you move through the world. You stop reacting. You start observing. You listen less to words and more to patterns. You begin to understand that calm distance is often healthier than emotional confrontation. And you realize that walking away is not failure. Sometimes it is the most mature form of strength. One of the hardest lessons for many adults, especially later in life, is accepting that family does not automatically mean safe. It means familiar. It means history. It means shared experiences. But familiarity does not excuse repeated harm. Love does not require you to remain in environments that slowly drain your sense of self. When someone repeatedly crosses your boundaries, dismisses your feelings, or competes with your growth, they are showing you who they are. Not once, but consistently. And consistency matters more than intention. Many people stay trapped in unhealthy dynamics because they keep hoping for a version of someone that no longer exists, or perhaps never did. They remember who that person used to be, or who they could be if they changed. But relationships are built on reality, not potential. You cannot build peace with someone who thrives on chaos. You cannot feel safe with someone who refuses responsibility. And you cannot remain whole while constantly explaining why you deserve basic respect. As you grow more aware, you may notice something uncomfortable. The more grounded you become, the more resistance you may face. Some people benefit from the version of you that stayed quiet, that absorbed blame, that kept the peace at personal cost. When you change, they may accuse you of being distant, cold, or selfish. This reaction is revealing. It shows that the relationship was not built on mutual respect, but on access to your energy. And when access is limited, entitlement becomes visible. This is where many people feel torn. They worry that protecting themselves means becoming harsh or unkind. But there is a difference between cruelty and clarity. Cruelty seeks to punish. Clarity seeks to preserve. You can be calm without being passive. You can be firm without being aggressive. You can step away without carrying anger. In fact, the absence of resentment is often the clearest sign that a decision was made from wisdom, not ego. As boundaries strengthen, something else begins to happen internally. You stop over-explaining. You stop defending your choices to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You realize that those who respect you do not require justification, and those who demand it will never be satisfied anyway. This realization is freeing. It gives you back time. It gives you back energy. And most importantly, it gives you back trust in yourself. Trust is the foundation of inner peace. Trust that your discomfort is meaningful. Trust that your limits exist for a reason. Trust that walking away from what harms you is not abandonment, but alignment. Many adults spend decades ignoring this inner voice, only to feel lost, resentful, or exhausted later in life. Rebuilding that trust does not require dramatic changes. It begins with listening again, with honoring what feels wrong instead of rationalizing it away. You may also discover that some relationships naturally fade as you grow. Conversations become shorter. Visits become less frequent. Not because of conflict, but because of clarity. This is a natural part of evolution. Not everyone is meant to walk with you through every season of life. Holding on too tightly to past dynamics can prevent you from fully stepping into who you are becoming. Letting go, quietly and without bitterness, creates space for healthier connections to emerge. There is also an important truth worth accepting. Some people will never acknowledge the harm they caused. They may never apologize. They may rewrite history to protect their self-image. Waiting for closure from them keeps you tied to their behavior. Closure, in most cases, is something you give yourself. It comes from understanding, not agreement. From acceptance, not explanation. From choosing peace over validation. As you stop tolerating what drains you, you may notice a shift in your inner world. Your thoughts become calmer. Your reactions slower. Your sense of identity stronger. You are less easily pulled into arguments, less affected by guilt, less dependent on approval. This is not emotional detachment. It is emotional maturity. It allows you to engage with life from a place of stability rather than survival. And perhaps the most powerful change of all is this. You stop measuring love by how much you endure. You begin measuring it by how safe, respected, and seen you feel. This redefinition transforms relationships. It raises standards without needing ultimatums. It attracts people who value peace rather than control. And it quietly filters out those who thrive on imbalance. None of this means you become immune to pain. Growth does not eliminate difficulty, but it does change your relationship with it. You stop personalizing other people's dysfunction. You stop carrying what was never yours to hold. You stop confusing familiarity with belonging. And in doing so, you reclaim something essential. Your inner authority. At a certain stage in life, strength no longer looks like proving yourself. It looks like knowing when not to engage. It looks like silence without bitterness, like distance without drama, like a calm refusal to participate in cycles that no longer serve you. This kind of strength does not need applause. It does not announce itself. It is felt in the quiet stability of a well-guarded mind. So if you find yourself questioning whether you are allowed to step back, to say no, to choose peace over obligation, let this be your reminder. You are not required to accept behavior that erodes your dignity. Not from strangers, not from friends, and not even from family. Respect is not a luxury. It is a foundation, and protecting it is not an act of rebellion. It is an act of responsibility. Your life becomes lighter when you stop carrying what harms you. Your mind becomes clearer when you stop tolerating what confuses you. And your peace becomes stronger when you stop explaining yourself to those who were never listening. This is not about isolation. It is about discipline. The discipline to choose calm over chaos, awareness over denial, and self-respect over silent suffering. And that discipline begins the moment you decide that your peace matters enough to be protected.